Well, good morning, all y'all. It's 10 o'clock and it's Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour number 195, March 28th, 2024. My name is John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator as usual. Anyway, this is a drawing made by my new contraption. There's another one. I'm going to try and get that cursor bar to go away. Okay. There's the contraption itself, if you can see it. It consists of these three arms, which support these three pendulums. This pendulum swings this way in this plane. This pendulum swings in this plane, and this one is rotary. The rotary one has a platen up here with a piece of paper on it. There we go. And there's, I'm going to resume the video in a second, and you'll see how it works, and then we'll come back to some of the deets. So there's the paper going around. Can you see that all okay?
Yep.
I deliberately did this low res to get through the zoom pipe. I get both arms going. I've got other ways of doing this now, but anyway. And the string lifter lets the pen drop down on the paper, and now that the platen is going around in a circle and the two arms are driving the pen in an XY direction, and the pendulums are all about the same length in this setup. And here's what it's drawing. This is not the same run, but this is what it's drawing in this mode. And that's what the pendulums look like. They're all pretty much in sync. But I can raise them up and down because those are threaded arms. And you can see all the turned parts in here, which we're going to come to in a minute. It never seems to make the same thing twice, or at least I can't make it. It's much more like a musical instrument too. You get a little something different every time. Here's some of the parts. These are before I cleaned them up a bit. Can you still see me, or did I go away?
You're good.
Parts are there.
Okay. These are the three gimbals, or the three hubs. I decided to make hubs that had pendulums below and then arms above for the apparatus. Now, these are stop collars, and these are two of the gimbals. And here's an example of threaded rod, and I'm using cane parts, cane hardware to join all these bits together. These here are washers that are bored for steel screws to make fulcrums. And then the points of the screws rest in dimples in mating washer surfaces that we'll see in a second. Here's a close-up of these parts when they were underway being made. The hardest thing I found in my little shop was to accurately bore these steel washers. And I finally found that if I bought Bosch bits, I could get more than one hole drilled at a time without breaking the bit. And I made a jig that would hold them and index off the first hole and then drill so I could go around and do it. And I recessed them and set all this stuff together with epoxy. And one of the difficulties in the system is when you set these things, these fittings, which are cane hardware, you can't really control that that's perfectly true just by pushing it into the epoxy, no matter how true you machine it. You really have to have a long rod screwed in there and be sighting that against a vertical to make sure that it's really correctly aligned before the epoxy sets, which I learned too late, of course. Here's a close-up I've inserted of the gimbal that allows the central pendulum to go around in a circle. This washer there has dimples opposed 90 degrees on one side and on the other side, and it's supported on two spiky screws that come up from the plate that's on the horizontal arm and two that come down from the hub. So this allows it to rotate in 360 degrees. It's the simplest gimbal I've ever seen, and it really works great. These are the threading tools I've been using. I have two of these taps that work. I have a larger one that I've taken apart that I can't quite sharpen accurately. I find it important to have test bores of the holes and test threads and to know exactly the right size to make the dowels and the bores. And it's really pretty critical to be dead on your dimensions with this. So these are taps. Here's the smaller tap, and I write the dimensions that are needed for dowels and holes and taps right on the wood. So it's all right there, and these work very well. Here's a close-up of a walnut threaded rod. This was around a half an inch started out. I was testing a new close-up lens I got for my iPhone, but it's cut and also burnished. These threading tools have an aluminum throat that kind of burnishes the wood as it goes through. And that's all right. It makes a good hard finish. Sometimes I run CA glue onto it, but I usually find that not necessary. Here's an example of some of the apparatus looking closer up. This is the pendulum rod over here on the right. Can you see the cursor moving up and down all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a stop collar that allows me to change the height on it. And then this is a free turning collar here that fits freely on the walnut rod. So it can rotate easily. It has two holes in the sides that these two threaded bits and this one over here thread into, so it can rock up. And so this larger collar carrying this pen arm can rock up and down. So that gives this thing it can rock up and down, and it can pivot sideways with very low friction. This other apparatus over on the left is a cam that acts as one of several different pen lifters that I've devised. So this allows me to lift the pen and put it down again and get the pendulums going and drop the pen where I want it to. Here's the simpler one on the variable pendulum, what I call the Y pendulum. So that's that one. The other one has also a counterweight to control how much weight the pen puts on the paper. This is what my colleague, partner in crime on this, Lawrence Souder. Lawrence is a retired professor in Philadelphia. We've been friends for years. We made this is a close-up look at the details of his contraption, which we made in my shop 7 years ago, way before the pandemic. I don't remember if we devised this or if he figured it out later. I'm happy to credit him with figuring it out later. All that turned apparatus with wooden threads that I just showed you a minute ago is replaced by 2 nails and a ball-bearing magnet. So this is the equivalent pendulum on the other machine. There's a nail head there and a nail head in this rod that goes to the pen. And in there is looks like about a 3/8 inch hemispherically magnetized exactly the kind of magnets I play with all the time. And that serves the very same extremely low friction, 3-dimensional motion of the complicated gimbal I showed you a minute ago. So there's a vote for clever magnetic momentums. And then here's a little run of the drawings this thing makes in its current mode. And I just love these. I think they're gorgeous. And that's the signature line of a coffee hour video. So now I'm back, and I'll see if I can get my background back. And then if you'll kill let me get back to a gallery view over here. Try to get my cursor.
Yeah, I had spotlighted you. I killed it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Use virtual background. I'll get my background back up. And here we are. Comments and questions?
Those pictures remind me of like birds flying that you see every once in a while.
Yeah, it's the same motions, I think. Mathematically, they would be Lissajous figures, but the apparatus is sufficiently wonky to nothing ever quite comes out the same way. You know, there's motion in it that if it was a perfect apparatus, it would be like an oscilloscope drawing, like we used to see in electronics class. And I've seen a lot of software that'll draw that stuff on your screen. But I'm not after that. I'm after the wonkiness, and some of those drawings are made by adding energy to the pendulums the way a clock escapement does, and so you're really playing it like an instrument. It makes me think of a theremin, and I think of the proper video really ought to have some music with it, because this is by setting the length of the pendulums, you're really beating frequencies into each other, and it's a visual analog of music.
Yeah, John, I see a laser involved instead of a pen, or a little drip from a paint reservoir of some sort. So as it drips on a board, you could sell them. Hey,
Yep, I think that's right. I think there's a lot of things you could do like that. Yeah, you could also use a laser on photographic paper. I'm working on copy paper right now while I try and learn what it does. Next, I'm going to go to glossy photo paper just to see what I can do with markers, and also by varying the weight of the pen, you can make it skip so it makes dotted lines.
Maybe you could have it write music by putting rollers on each side, and they could roll through as it does it. By the way, I have a picture of you I want to show. I think it's pretty nice. This shows John's great fun with it. So I was there on his early.
Yeah, it was when I just was first getting it set up.
And also because we couldn't see much of the drawing, on the exposure was pretty hot on the other video. You can see a little more here what it does. So yeah, it was great fun. I happened to be in his shop one day and he was all thrilled with it. So
Well, this version of it now is the second one I made. It's a research version. It has all kinds. I've deliberately made it utterly adjustable and all parts replaceable. And I've been replacing parts and refining them. What I'm heading for is making a third one that uses what I learned here. And I think I can make it quite a bit smaller. The other one that I made, Lawrence's contraption, is in the form of a table. Mine is just clamped on platforms to a chimney because I can arrange it where I want it that way. We made a table for his, and it was a pretty good three-legged table design. And I figured out how to place the legs so the pendulums don't hit them. So and it has to be stable because you sometimes. The weight on the pendulum doesn't affect the period of it. It's the length to the center of mass from the fulcrum is what governs the period. But the weight governs how long it will keep on going. It has this momentum from weight. So if you wanted to go a long time, you add heavier weight, weightlifter weights. A lot of little turnings in that, and it was astonishing to me that the single magnet and two nail heads replaced about 12 turnings.
Quite ingenious, John.
I'm working off a little book. I didn't invent any of this. I got to tell you, I'm working. There's a little book called Harmonograph that has some pretty cryptic descriptions. But I'm starting from that and working away from that. But I've always liked this kind of thing, this kind of contraption. I've made a bunch of things like this before.
John, I share your interest in that. And what I've done in the past is used a speaker cone as a driver to vary a length, if you will. Does that make any sense to you? Especially if you even have an equalizer and can pick out the low bass and the high treble, you can get kind of crazy. But that's beautiful, John.
My son's a musician and he has a theremin or a theremin, I think it is. You wave your hands around, it makes tunes. So I'm going to try and get him and his theremin together with this thing sometime this year. We'll see what we get. It's hard to make a video of it. I've shot a lot of it. It's very hard to get a video that's coherent.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.